Good afternoon, everyone. I'm the Grace Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Monday, June 24th, 2024. What do we have in the cards for today? May I please have the first 5 cards in our 5-card spread? First card, we are starting our day off with today, living for this energy right now. We've got here our 10 of Cups in its upright. You're probably feeling, I gotta stress this, okay? I gotta say it. I think we all agree, typically full moons have that notoriety of having that like full moon hangover. This full moon hangover is not as bad as we would necessarily articulate. In fact, I actually feel like it's a little bit of that calm water that is effectively energetically entering situations and circumstances now. Why? Because we're starting that shift out of Gemini season into Cancer season. And one of the things that we really articulated about Gemini season that we just went through is there was a lot of hopping around. There was a lot of that rapidness that we saw that was kind of required. That feeling of having to change or having to course correct very quickly or having to move through a lot of modalities at once. Some of this energy that we're seeing that's a combination of the full moon in Capricorn. So a bit of that anchoring energy that we really feel, like that weight as it were, in combination with the Cancer energy, which is going to be a little bit more indicative of that slowness, right? That feeling of like, I want to say like that circling of the wagons, if you will. That's almost that feeling right now of focusing on the positive, of keeping and maintaining that sense of contentment. This is a lot of the success. This is the metric of success that we see that a lot of the energy within the divine union frequency has been navigating. Because if you'll recall, a lot of that work that we saw that was happening over the last few weeks with the energy within the divine union had to do with not just being in a moment of being content with moving towards making the manifestation goal tangible, but expressing that manifestation goal to those outside of the divine union frequency, right? That's that moment that feels like the manifestation of abundance that becomes the manifestation goal. Because a lot of that energetic frequency now, that is that moment that we saw, that is the tangibility point that a lot of that energy is experiencing right now, because a part of that, part and parcel for that feeling of amplifying the directionality that the energy within the divine union frequency is having right now is being able to share that, to express that in a wider way, almost having others that share that same dream or manifestation goal here. So we see even now like a lot of that feeling of energetic excitement and contentment coming to bear today, which was something that we really like to see. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into the divine union, this is that feeling that we see is happening right now, because a lot of this energy, I need to say this, a lot of this energy coming into divine union right now is having that moment. I can almost hear them saying it. I don't want to get my hopes up, but I also recognize that I don't have to. That is the beauty of a lot of this energy that's coming into divine union, because what occurs in that moment or modality wherein the clarity and the recognition point of the manifestation goal is brought forth at the beginning. This isn't energy that is building into a partnership on the hope of something going somewhere. This is energy that is building a partnership based on the clarity and what exists between them and the counterpart in terms of feeling like you are energetically on the same page. So even now, this is energy that is slowing down, because this isn't energy that feels like they need to speed things up because they're trying to change the feeling that they're experiencing between them and a counterpart. This is the energy that's already feeling the change. And the change is the fact of feeling that contentment so early on in a partnership. And the reason that this energy is feeling this is because the energy doesn't have to build in the world of hope and possibility. They're building in the world of appearance, of presence and potentiality, okay? Presence and potentiality instead of possibility and hope, right? Because this isn't energy that is looking at something or building with a counterpart and saying, there's something that is not present. I hope that it appears. This is energy that is looking at something. They're seeing it there. They're seeing the tangibility point. They're recognizing it. They're moving forward because they already see that it is present, and they're just hoping to amplify it. They're just hoping to build it further. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is in separation, this is a lot of that energetic contentment that we see right now, that same feeling that is being inhabited, as it were, by the energy in separation. Because if these are spaces and places wherein we recognize that this energy moved away from a circumstance and situation that was not providing that clarity, this is the energy that is immediately feeling the robustness of the satisfaction in doing so, because this is the energy that observed that the change has occurred. But the change hasn't occurred outside of the self. The change has occurred within the self. The change has occurred in them seeing how they are moving in a different way. Again, not moving in the direction that does not show signs of what they're trying to manifest. Rather, accepting that that is the case, even if they're still feeling that desire to move towards it, pulling away from it at that moment, making that choice, is the energy that is effectively in separation, prioritizing their manifestation goal and allowing it to guide their direction. Second card in our 5-card spread for today is, we have here, look at these cards today. Let's just glue them to the table. We've got here our 10 of Cups in combination with our Ace of Pentacles. So this is beautiful. This is the tangibility point that we want to see in relationality towards building towards manifestations. These aren't energies that are just wishing for things for the hope that something is going to magically appear. This is energy that recognizes that when you move towards what you desire, you have to have the combination of effort of wishing for something and then doing everything you can to facilitate that wish coming into fruition. Okay? So we see even now for a lot of the energy in separation, having that point, this is the energy that even if they had to move away from something right now, it doesn't feel so much like that sense of disappointment, because this is the energy that is looking at it with the perception of recognizing and understanding and saying, I didn't move away from something. I didn't lose a possibility there. I recognized that something that was not moving towards a manifestation goal, and my direction is one that is keeping my focus on my destination. So we see even now, like, that feeling is the energetic commitment of the self that feels like it is guiding the energy in the direction, because this is almost the energy in separation going, if I'm utilizing my powers of discernment and only moving towards the energy that is offering me what I'm hoping to manifest, how can I miss my manifestation? This is the energy that feels like that path is that work of course correction, but it is the internal course correction. So we see even now, like, this is almost the energy that almost feels the expression point of their manifestation having arrived. They're just waiting, almost like that point of seeing it in the tangible space. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is coming into divine union, this is why these energies are feeling that security, why they're feeling that stability. Because these are not energies that are building into a relationship right now, building on the hope of something appearing that is not present. This is the energy that is feeling the security and stability of already cultivating an energetic connection that is built on what is being offered. And what was being offered in these spaces and places are energy that has built clarity in relationality to what it is they're trying to manifest. And even here we see that this is energy that hasn't necessarily offered each other a commitment towards those. But the commitment, it does not bear the need to articulate it in words, because in the ability to amplify, in the ability to state, in the ability to tell someone what one desires, the gift that you give someone in that moment is that you tell them, I prioritize my connection to you above my need or desire to move to that endpoint. Because that is the energy that's almost saying to one another in that moment, I don't see you as a means to an end. I see you as someone who I want to be a part of that with. And that is something that we create together. While for masculine and feminine energy that is in the divine union frequency, this ability of having reached, this is the energy within the divine union frequency that feels to a certain extent like they've reached their manifestation goal. And now they're just sharing that manifestation goal to others. This is almost like that act. I told you, a lot of this energy right now, even if they're coming into that point of telling others kind of where they are, we even saw that moment of potentially reaching those miscommunication points if someone was trying to like correct someone, to help them recognize and identify and say like, I'm not telling you this for notes. I'm telling you this because I'm just telling you what it is. So we see even now that a lot of that energy is feeling that sense of positivity. Right? It's feeling that sense of confidence, because it almost feels like that's that radiation point in terms of like the radiance of joy that you're giving forth towards something right now, in terms of being able to amplify and say, you know, this is something that is very happy. This is something that is very positive. I'm trying to share this joy with you, right? And that's why we see to a certain extent that energy isn't necessarily in a space or state of desiring to move into a point of conflict with someone about that, because that's just the energy of saying, I'm telling you something that is just, I'm giving you my joy. Like, if there's nothing to debate there, because how can one debate joy? Third card in our 5-card spread for today is, we have here, guys, I keep telling you, we talked about this last week. We've been getting a proliferation of 10 cards. I think we've received over the last month like 3 different spreads where we had 3 out of the 4 10 cards out, and we're doing it once again. We're starting off this week the same exact way. Look at this. We've got here our 10 of Swords in its reversal, which is exactly where we want it to be, in combination with our Ace of Pentacles and our 10 of Cups in its upright. So this is beautiful, because I told you, this is completion energy, but this is completion energy in the best way possible. This is the completion energy that feels like that sense of like joy or positivity, because this is the completion of manifestations and the start of new manifestations. Do you see how they're overlapping here? Do you see how they're like basically stacked up on one? Because this is that moment, even here, this is the articulation for a lot of the energy deep within the divine union frequency right now. This is the articulation of a new beginning. This is the amplification of a rebirth, if you will. So we see even now, like, this is beautiful, because this is the changeability of the Gemini season that is exiting in combination with their Capricorn energy. So we see even now, that is that moment that feels like the anchoring of the manifestation into the tangible space is allowing for that feeling of renewal. It's allowing for that feeling of revitalization. It's allowing for that feeling of rebirth. This is why for a lot of the energy deep within the divine union frequency right now, there's almost that moment that feels like it's just that amplification of the positive. Because not only is it the present that's being extended in that way, but this is almost energy that's articulating an ability to always find that positive, right? That is why this energy is moving with so much commitment and determination in that point, because that is almost like that inevitability feature or vector that we see that is happening in these spaces, that feels like that sense of like joy or excitement, because this is clarifying anything that had to end in the past, which brings us to the energy that's coming into divine union, which is why we saw even now a little bit of that. I know I can see that prior to that full moon, there was like a lot of that buildup that was happening, right? A lot of that switching back and forth, that positive and negative, feeling like the full breadth of the Gemini energy coming to bear right before that Capricorn full moon was the articulation point in coming into like, you know, it's like something that goes like this and then it straightens up. Like, it's a little bit like that. So we see even now, like, that ability of feeling and experiencing some of that transformational change that's occurring. This is the energy that is recognizing why their manifestation is coming through. Because this is the energy that recognizes that it's not just coincidence that is allowing them to be in such a grounded, stable space. This is the energy that sees and recognizes that work from within, putting that acknowledged effort there, and recognizing that the work from within is allowing for the expression of stability from without, which is why we see even now a lot of that ability to look from the past is being built in these moments, because it's helping create that point of observation in how much both you have changed, but also how much the circumstances has changed in the wake of those changes. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is in separation, this is why so much of that energy in separation right now, even if they're moving away from circumstances and situations that don't feel like they're in alignment to them, there is this feeling of excitement. There is this feeling of positivity. This doesn't feel like a closure point. It feels like a new beginning, because this is energy that is effectively recognizing that a breakthrough has occurred. Some aspect of their manifestation goal has arrived. The important thing is whether it occurred external, outside the self, or if it's happening right now as an internal breakthrough. For the energy that's experiencing it externally, these are energies wherein, again, manifestation goals were clearly articulated at the onset of a new energetic connection, and there was an observation made that your manifestation goals weren't in alignment, thereby allowing for an easy shift into a deep friendship or a deep energetic connection with a sense or that space of appreciating someone who bears the qualities and characteristics of someone that you would effectively ideally desire to build forward with, however, just not matching the manifestation goals. An example of, again, that thank you moment and seeing one's desires starting to take root in the tangible space. While as for the other part of the energy right now, seeing and observing a place or space where you were not seeing that ability to articulate the manifestation goal, but rather than staying there, rather than waiting for something not that isn't there to appear, letting that be your moment of closure, that ability to move forward, adapt from something so quickly, that is taking the lesson of the Gemini season, operating in that binary of saying it's either there or it's not, that is allowing that energy to adjust and change course so quickly that feels like the manifestation coming through, because that's the energy that says, I can see I'm changing how I address things, which is an expression of me moving towards my manifestation. Fourth card in our 5-card spread for today, we've got here our 6 of Pentacles in its upright, because where is that breakthrough occurring right now for a lot of that energy that is in separation? This is the energy that is recognizing the value and the significance and importance of where you put your time, effort, focus, and energy. And so this is the energetic equivalent that is not looking towards something and hoping to have something come forth where there is nothing. Rather, this is the energy that, again, moving out, like the lesson. This is like the closing out of the lesson from the Gemini season, saying like something is there or it's not. It's either present or it's absent. That it's not that moment of almost like holding one's breath, right? If you want something to be there, like when we sit with the universe and we say, okay, I know I have a manifestation goal and I know I'm not seeing it in this individual. I'm just going to hold my breath until it appears. Like it's not functional. It doesn't create, it's that moment that just like, it creates that expression of lack, if you will. It almost creates that expression of like, again, the understanding and the recognition point that feels like a lot of this energetic equivalent that almost recognizes and says, this is the observation of the self that says, if I desire and aspire something, I need to give indications that I'm moving in that direction. I need to recognize the most important thing about the actions backing the words. This is the energy that's almost, again, saying to themselves, if I want energy whose words match their actions, then even via my own manifestation, I have to make sure that my own words match my action, that my own ability to manifest is that point coming forward. So we see even now, like a lot of this energy right now in separation is going through that power of course correction by identifying and both assessing the need or the hope of wanting to give forth to something that isn't already giving indication of wanting to give back in kind, like almost investigating that is allowing for an internal breakthrough point, or this is energy that is healing from that in the moment that they're refusing to do it. So we see even now a lot of that energy feeling that excitement point because they're seeing that change in themselves that is leading them to new possibilities. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, deep within the divine union frequency, this is why this can feel a little bit more triggering at this time. Because if these are spaces and places wherein you did that work with yourself, put yourself forward, articulated that manifestation goal, or having a breakthrough point with energy that's able to do same, feeling the security and stability of not needing to worry where something is going, feeling the stability of knowing the direction it's headed in, and just almost allowing it to go into cruise control to a certain extent. That modality that we see here, one of the reasons that energy is going into cruise control is it's trying to calibrate and recognize all the spaces that they may not have received that. Because even as this energy is coming into divine union, they're having a massive perception shift in what it may have taken to reach that point, in terms of seeing something in a way that they're being less generous about it, right? They're looking at it with more objectivity, right? Because now they have that point of comparison. So what is happening right now for a lot of that energy? Seeing something in a different way is being amplified by saying, I couldn't see it that way because I've never known this to be. Sometimes the only way we see something is when we have a method by which to compare it to. So we see even now, like that energy being able to compare something is what is allowing this breakthrough point. But for some of that energy, it may be frustrating because if you just are reaching that point of comparison, it may feel frustrating about how long it took to be able to reach that point. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, this is why we see that binary coming into play to a certain extent in relation to sharing your joy with others. Because a lot of the energy right now within the divine union frequency, we see that a lot of that energy reach that manifestation goal during this Gemini cycle. And that ability to almost shift one's manifestation goal away from just moving towards the manifestation goal, but now this is almost like the outward expansion of that manifestation goal. Letting others know, letting it be seen, letting it be present. That's the energy. It almost feels like they're sharing their joy with others right now. And they're just being observant about how it's received. And that's the energy that's not trying to shift or not trying to change someone's observational points on it. It's just that moment of recognizing that whenever we share something, some energy will take it joyfully and some energy will not, right? And this isn't the energy that's feeling that sense of wanting to change something about that. That's just coming into the point of acceptance, right? Like that's that c'est la vie, if you will, because that's the energy that hopes, that builds upon the hope that something could change in the areas or spaces where it's not as well received, but also not putting too much time, effort, and energy into trying to change that, because that is the energy that is prioritizing what they're creating together. Fifth card in our 5-card spread for today is, we have here our 8 of Wands in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy, and this is what we see here, and I have to stress this, for a lot of the energy that is deep within the divine union frequency, the thing that we kept seeing that was coming through that may be creating some of those miscommunications right now has to do with the nature of what is being shared. Because this isn't energy within the divine union that is sharing something that feels like it is up for debate. It's not up for a conversation. It's not up for assessment. It's almost like that energy, like that's a little bit of that, like that solidity that's coming through. That is almost that amplification of something that feels like, I told you, what is a lot of that energy feeling right now within the divine union? The inevitability that they're trying to bring into the tangible space. So when something is inevitable, by its very nature, it's not adaptable, right? Because it's like it just is. So we see even now, like a lot of the energy, if there's any feeling of conflict here, for some of this energy in divine union, it may potentially have to do with energy that isn't recognizing the nature of what is being expressed and communicated at this time. Because I can see that there may be a little bit of these areas here that are hitting conflict spaces that almost feel like someone saying, you don't seem to understand what I'm telling you. It's not something that is bearing a desire for an opinion. It's not something that is up for a debate. It is something, a lot of the energy right now within the divine union is articulating something that just is. And potentially, if there's any friction point here, It's potentially coming in the areas of someone not understanding that the nature of what is being expressed there in relation to a manifestation goal is not adaptable. It is inevitable. And that's why the energy is, again, keeping a level or degree of openness in terms of hoping someone becomes compassionate about it, but also being very quick to staunch any sort of conflict or arguments in those spaces, because it's almost giving me some kind of air of something that's not up for debate. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union, this is why we see that there's so much potential closure that's happening right now. I'm telling you right now, there may be some abrupt ends of communication that occur in some of these spaces and places right now. Because why? Because a lot of energy right now is moving into divine union, and in the moment that they're moving into divine union, they're getting closure. That same internal breakthrough that we identified is occurring for the energy in separation is happening right now for the energy coming into divine union. But the breakthrough is occurring not within the self and observing the changes that one is making within the self that is leading to different outcomes. It is coming through experiencing the comparative experience that is allowing you perception, being able to see something in a different way, because you have that binary opinion now of looking at something that is not what was experienced, that may be abruptly ending something here because you no longer have so much generosity for it. You may be feeling less compassionate about it, because that's that moment that in the shift of perception comes with it a renewed sense of vitality or clarity that feels a bit less generous. That's some of that Capricorn, full moon energy coming to bear. While continuing to get clarification on this energy right now that is in separation, this is why the energy is experiencing the breakthrough. The energy experiencing the breakthrough is experiencing the energetic breakthrough within the self in the ability to move away from what is not for them, instead of sticking around hoping that something that is not will change into something that is. That is the gift of a lot of the binary from this Gemini season, is just looking at something and saying it's either a yes or a no. It's either a manifestation that's being articulated or it's not. And this is an energy that's trying to stick around or become detective as to the context or the reasons why something might not be appearing in the potential counterpart. It is the not internalizing an external problem and accepting it that is allowing a rapidness now in moving away from something that is happening at a much faster speed, right? And that is like that immediate closure point that feels like a breakthrough point for some of the energy and separation, with the observation that you yourself have changed because you're able to move through something as quickly. Continuing to get clarification between our 10 of Cups in combination with our Ace of Pentacles. Two cards I love seeing together. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with the High Priestess in its reversal. And this is why so much of that energy in separation is not lingering to try to figure out why. This is the energy, and it is going to have a different impact depending on whether you align to masculine or feminine energy, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Feminine recognizes they can probably get to the bottom as to why someone isn't revealing a manifestation goal. Feminine is stopping themselves. They're observing themselves and going, if I am starting to enter a situation that I need to play detective to be able to articulate what is going on, this is the energy saying, I'm not moving towards my manifestation goal. This is the feminine energy going, I'm clearly not moving towards my manifestation goal, because this is a feminine energy in separation going, am I manifesting a relationship with masculine wherein I have to play detective to try to identify what the manifestation goal is? Okay, if I'm not manifesting that, then as soon as I observe that, I recognize that I need to move away from that. And the feminine, in a certain extent, is again healing themselves in separation, because this is the feminine energy. It almost feels that desire Why? Why? Because this is the feminine energy going into that moment of curiosity coming into play. This is feminine investigating and saying, why am I driven forth towards something that isn't giving indications of something that I desire to be there? Because it feeds into the energy of the feminine's need to understand. This is the feminine energy that almost says my need to understand sometimes blocks me moving towards my manifestation goal, because my need to understand, I move into an avenue that is a direction that is other than the one that I'm trying to manifest. So this is the feminine energy to a certain extent in separation, recognizing their own curiosity that sometimes gets the best out of them, because that's the feminine energy saying, am I moving into a relationship because I'm curious to see what happens? Am I moving into a relationship because I want to get to the bottom of something? Because that's the feminine energy saying, is that actually the relationship I want? Or is that moving me in the direction that isn't for me? Like, this is the energy of the feminine, like going into that introspection that leads to the feminine better articulating and identifying what their manifestation goal is. While for masculine energy right now, this is masculine energy going through that same modality. And this is a little bit different here because, again, this is the masculine energy that if the masculine energy has gone to all the trouble, has gone to all the work of overcoming one's own anxiety, of overcoming one's own ego, of overcoming one's own doubts and fears, to be able to amplify and articulate to feminine what it is that you desire. And that is a and that feminine was not able to do so in the same regard. This can feel a little bit more frustrating for the masculine in separation right now, because again, that is that masculine in separation that is feeling that aspiration. And again, if this is a feminine that they encountered that was talking so much about the past, but not able to amplify what it is they want going forward, this is the masculine energy almost looking at the feminine energy and saying, I recognize that the feminine has a manifestation goal here, but their own inability to articulate it is effectively like, that's the masculine saying, I want, if I've gone through that modality, I now want a feminine that can do the same. And I don't want to feel like I'm pulling the feminine away from their dream in that moment. And that's why it feels more like that masculine energy going through separation right now, but also not allowing that temptation to come into bear, because that feels more like that air of temptation in terms of the masculine feeling like I can pull the feminine into a manifestation goal. But if the feminine is not in that modality that they move towards it with me, then the day may come that the feminine may not necessarily feel like that's a point of happiness, but almost may blame me for taking them away from what they were aspiring to hope for, because that's almost the masculine saying, I'm not encountering a feminine that's looking forward. I'm encountering a feminine that feels like they're in a point of waiting. While for masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union right now, this is why that can feel triggering, because again, I told you, this is that perception shift and finding a point of comparison now wherein you can see something from different optics. So even now, as this energy is like hitting terra firma with one another and feeling that satisfaction and moving towards their manifestation goals, it's not surprising that some of that past may be rising back up to the surface at this time, because it is the clarity of perception that is coming in that is almost reintroducing that in a way that you couldn't see before. So we see even now for both masculine and feminine that maybe that modality that again requires you to kind of assess and work through the sense of self. For feminine, we have that modality of, again, potentially recognizing spaces and places from the past wherein you over-internalized something that was externally happening around you. While for masculine, this could be that moment that you recognize that your own fear of being able to articulate your manifestation goals may have prevented the ability of the feminine to be able to join you in that modality. So we see even now that these energies are having this moment of deep breakthrough and stability, only now starting to heal from the past in the wake of it. While for masculine and feminine energy, deep within the divine union frequency, this is just that moment of observation that we sometimes reach that recognizes that sometimes when we have manifestation goals that come into tangibility points, not everybody's going to jive with our manifestation goals. Like, this is why we see so much of this energy right now. If this is energy deep within the divine union frequency that is trying to share their abundance or share their joy or share their manifestation with those around them, and there's energy around them that isn't experiencing or accepting it in that vibration, this is why the energy in that modality is just looking at it with a sense of compassion. Because that's that moment that if you look towards someone and you articulate that there's something that you're moving toward that brings that point of joy, you know, that's almost that moment that if someone is holding against that, it almost feels like someone is amplifying and saying that like that your joy comes at the cost of their sense of self. So we see even now, like there's that modality of trying to articulate and amplify that sense of like not wanting to amplify that, but that almost like that sense of compassion in the spaces or places wherein that might be being observed, because that's almost that moment that like you want to bring healing towards something, but you also recognize and identify that you can't bring someone into that point of healing unless they themselves are ready to experience it. So we see even now, that's why a lot of this energy that's moving in this way within the divine union frequency is moving into that point of expressing things and saying, what I'm expressing isn't necessarily up for dispute or to be challenged. It's something that should be received from a point of joy. And anything that doesn't experience it from that vibration, it immediately calls into question why. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Ace of Pentacles in combination with our Ten of Swords in its upright. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Queen of Cups in its upright. Now, masculine and feminine energy deep within the divine union frequency. You know, this is going to be a little bit different depending on whether you align to masculine and feminine energy. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, right? Because, and we see this here too, a lot of this friction point that some of the energy deep within the divine union frequency may be experiencing is coming from energy, I want to say almost like calling something into question, right? But if there's something here that's being called into question, it's more of that analysis as to whether something is being called into question because it's coming from a place of compassion, or because there's something about the expression point of what is being manifested that doesn't serve another's needs. It's simple as that. And I see a lot of the energy right now that's in the divine union frequency really trying to utilize their powers of observation to tell the difference between someone creating friction points from a place of empathy and compassion and care versus someone who is doing so because something that they're seeing that is being brought forth doesn't feel like it serves their energetic needs. And so we see even now, this is why so much of that energy that is in the divine union frequency is moving with so much of that, I want to say, that resilience, if you will. Because it requires, I'm almost seeing here, it almost requires the assumption of the former, even in the face of the latter, right? It's almost assuming and saying, I'm hoping that that friction is coming from a good place. I'm assuming that that friction is coming from a good place, because that is almost the energy within the divine union amplifying to those around them and saying, I hope that you're matching the energetic standard through which we all hope to conduct ourselves. Like, it's almost like that energy in the divine union, like, again, holding the energetic standard by almost articulating and saying that even if they experience the opposite, the energy within the divine union chooses to reflect the former, right? Because that's that moment that like requires us to have those points of saying, like, we always want to give someone the benefit of the doubt while also being very firm and resilient, because that's that moment that says this is an educational opportunity to be able to show someone how one would choose to navigate something, even if someone isn't bringing forth what you may aspire and desire, right? And we see even now that that might be something that the feminine is a little bit better in terms of recognizing that they may be helping some of the masculine energy with. Well, for masculine and feminine energy right now coming into divine union, this is that energetic equivalent, if you will, that feels to a certain extent why that moment of coming into a point of positivity can feel so triggering is because a lot of this energy in the moment that they're receiving something, they're immediately remembering where they did not get it. And in the moment of suddenly receiving something, and then you suddenly have that flashback to where you didn't get it, that's that moment that feels like the past comes back up, but almost to try to show you something, to give you some kind of insight, to help you have a point of comparison. It's like the final gift of the Gemini season. That's almost like the bump. Like, do these things look similar? No, they don't. What's different about them, right? So that ability to observe that and to feel that shift, something that may even feel similar to something that happened in the past, but experiencing it in a whole different way. A lot of this energy right now is releasing karma, potentially around circumstances and situations that they were carrying too much karma on, carrying too much blame, carrying too much regret, because it's almost the amplification of the value and importance of the counterpart, and how moving with a counterpart that's in alignment with you can make all the energetic difference. While for masculine and feminine energy in separation right now, this is why the energy is not being patient in relation to waiting for something that they're now articulating and amplifying is not an achievement after building an energetic or passionate connection with someone. This is, again, the energy in separation is repeating the mantra that a manifestation goal is not an accomplishment to be received after you build an energetic or passionate connection with someone. It is a requirement to ascertain whether one should begin in the first place. So a lot of this energy is just reaffirming themselves that point of commitment, and being able to recognize that is creating the changes within that are allowing them to feel that positivity point, even if they're coming into a point of closure, because it doesn't feel like an ending. It feels like a new beginning. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Ten of Swords in its reversal in combination with our Six of Pentacles in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with, beautiful, our Page of Pentacles. This is why I gotta say, a lot of this energy right now in separation is literally closing out cycles and potentially meeting the energetic counterparts now that are going to be in alignment with them, because this is the energy that says, if I continue to move forward, and I hold firm to my desire and manifestation of saying I'm moving towards an energy that wants to manifest the same things that I want to manifest, that is able to articulate the same things that I desire to have articulated. This is the energy that's almost reminding themselves, saying, how can I not find that? How will there be any construct wherein I'm not able to discover that if I've committed myself to the search to be able to find that? And that is that energy. And again, one of two different modalities that are coming into play right now in separation, right? This is either the energy that saw that it just experienced a situation wherein they met someone who had the qualities and characteristics of an ideal counterpart, but you did not share manifestation goals. But even in the articulating of the manifestation goals, you felt that deep bond and connection in someone who valued your time, your peace, your energy above them reaching that manifestation goal. That's energy that already feels like they've already seen that there. And that's the energy saying, if I've seen it once, I will see it again. That's the energy saying I'm getting closer to the mark because I'm seeing indications of what I would aspire and desire around me that's almost there. While for the other aspect of the energy right now in separation, experiencing something where you started to build that connection point of the past, but then that inability or that wall that was reached in someone being able to articulate what they desire in the future, this isn't energy that is taking it personally. This isn't energy that's trying to investigate the why. This is the energy that's just accepting the fact at hand and saying, this is clearly not my manifestation, because this is clearly not someone that is able to articulate what they want to manifest. So this is the energy that says, I'm going forward, because it's not up for debate. It's just something that is presently to be experienced and observed, right? And that's the energy that's almost saying to themselves, I'm not going to stick around and see something that is nothing and try to turn it into something. I'm going to observe where it's not and move away from that so I can find the place that it is, right? If you're looking in a cupboard for something, you don't just stand in front of the cupboard and say, maybe if I wish really hard, the thing I desire will just magically appear. You continue looking. So a lot of this energy is feeling that sense of manifestation, going, this isn't here. I obviously need to continue forward. Continuing on these, and right now, a lot of the energy coming into divine union is coming into divine union because they recognize that they experienced that point of internal standards of what they were seeking. This is the energy that did the hard part first. They've already given each other their manifestation goal, which means it already feels so easy because they're not trying to struggle and figure out what's happening between them and a counterpart. It's saying it's just present. It's there. And that ability of having that security, building that strong foundation, is adding a level or degree of clarity into situations and circumstances that left you wondering, that left you confused. Because it's that observational point that when we move in the direction of energy that cannot articulate their manifestation goal, we basically abandon our own manifestation goal to hope to make our new manifestation the desire that someone articulate their manifestation goal, right? That's that moment that when you recognize it like that, it's like standing in front of a wall. So this is almost a lot of that energy that feels that sense or that vibration. And this is, again, this isn't matching someone in that way. This isn't that race to the bottom. This isn't those moments of someone saying, well, if they're not going to give me mine, I'm not going to give them theirs. I'm going to do this. This is the energy that's holding the energetic standard. And now in the point of receiving that, the clarity is coming through, and it's almost reawakening things from the past because you can see them with even greater clarity. While for masculine and feminine energy that is deep within the divine union, this is just the acceptance point. This is just the acceptance point of you can't take it with you kind of mentality, in terms of if this is energy that's moving from that point of abundance and positivity and trying to express that to those around them. That is that moment that we sometimes realize that in those spaces or places that we offer something from a point of joy and someone doesn't see it that way, well, you don't really struggle to try to change one's opinion. You just kind of observe it for what it is and hope and aspire that one day that might change, right? That's why we see even now, a lot of that energy isn't coming into a modality that feels like they're open to subjectiveness or open to opinion. Because I told you, a lot of this is like the tip of the iceberg. This is a lot of the energy, articulating a manifestation goal towards others that's already happened, right? That's the inevitability. So it's almost that moment that feels like, again, if there's anything here that feels like they're trying to shift or change something, this is the energy that's almost saying there's nothing there to shift or change because it's already present. It's already occurred. It's not up for debate. It's not up for adaptability. It's just to be accepted and recognized, because that's the energy that's bringing the manifestation into the tangible space simply by articulating it to those around the divine union frequency. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Six of Pentacles in its reversal in combination with our Eight of Wands in its reversal. One card to clarify, clarification coming through right now with our Death card in its reversal. And I have to stress this right now because, again, a lot of the energy deep within the divine union frequency right now, the point of frustration is not being able to move fast enough, right? This is energy that is moving slower in the direction of their manifestation goals for the sake of the energy around the divine union, right? And this is why we keep seeing that point of conflict potentially for the, like, in that area outside of the divine union versus the energy within the divine union, because this is almost the energy, and you can imagine these conversations that are occurring in these spaces and places wherein someone is articulating to energy within the divine union saying this feels like it's a little fast, and the energy almost looking back to them and saying we would be going 15 times faster than that if we could. Because that is that moment or that vibration of the momentum or the inevitability of something that is amplified in saying to someone, if you feel like this is slow, it's even slower for us. We are slowing it down for you. While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into the divine union frequency, this is where we see if there's that moment right now, and I see it. I see some connections getting blocked. I see some very, very fast, abrupt closures that's coming in the combination point of the Capricorn full moon in combination with the Gemini energy. Because this is the energy that is receiving or reaching points of clarity. And a lot of that energy, to a certain extent, it builds a point of like frustration, right? Because especially if these are circumstances and situations wherein someone feels like another individual's inability to articulate on a manifestation goal was either, this is the same thing from the energy within the divine union frequency, to slow something down interminably or to prevent something from shifting. If this is energy that feels like that was done intentionally, then you can imagine that a lot of the energy here would allow that to be the closure point. Because that is that moment or that modality wherein some of the energy here doesn't feel that some of those situations from the past that happened coincidentally. There's some of that energy here that's observing those things from a point of optics that feels that vibration of something that was done more, either way, either obtusely or determinedly. But in either way, you can understand that there's a deep amount of frustration or like a lot of strong like energy there in terms of recognizing and seeing something in that way. While for masculine and feminine energy right now in separation, this is the energy that's just having that breakthrough in separation. And this is the energy that's, again, saying to themselves, if there's an inability to articulate on a manifestation goal, that's either coming from someone who doesn't have the energetic confidence to articulate it, or they're doing it intentionally. But this is, again, the energy says it's all the same in the wash. If the stain's on the shirt, it doesn't matter how it got there. If it's just, if it is what it is, you don't need to be a detective as to understand why it is, because the result is the same. One's more empathetic, one's more frustrating. But this is the energy that's just coming to that point of just accepting the facts at hand as the obstruction point. And the ability to observe the obstruction point is why we see this energy is able to move away from something so abruptly, because it's almost that ability of being able to articulate it that allows for that feeling of expedience. Again, the energy in separation, almost saying, like that swiftness. Remember that same swiftness that we saw that was being articulated within divine union? This is the swiftness coming through for the energy in separation. And the energy is feeling the breakthrough and saying that ability to swiftly move away from what is not for you is allowing the breakthrough point in terms of moving towards what is. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our High Priestess in its reversal and our Queen of Cups in its upright. These are going to be two very interesting cards to talk about in combination right now. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with the Eight of Cups in its reversal. Let's talk about it. This is going to be tricky for feminine energy. I already can see it. This is going to be tricky for feminine energy, because this is the feminine energy right now. I'm not surprised to see this with the Gemini energy departing and the Capricorn full moon. This is a conflict between the head and the heart space. This is a conflict. This is more difficult for the feminine energy, because this feels like more of a conflict between the feminine's head and heart space. Why? Because feminine energy when tapping into the heart of compassion, can have everything in their logical mind that tells them the energetic right thing to do. But the heart doesn't run by reason. The heart doesn't run by reason. The heart is not run by reason. The heart runs by compassion. So we see even now that a lot of the struggle points that some of the feminine energy is experiencing right now across, I'm going to say this, across all of the frequencies, is navigating the territory that the emotional core is guiding them away from where their logic dictates. That often happens. And we see even now, because even now, if this is feminine energy that's recognizing that desire or that need, feeling that calling to move towards something that isn't articulating their manifestation goal, even potentially starting to build some kind of energetic connection there. This is the feminine energy that's observing within themselves the ability to see and recognize and say, everything within me says that that is not the direction I should proceed. And yet, my emotional sense is not interrupted by that logic, right? But this is the energy of the feminine that is not necessarily letting that just happen intuitively. This is the feminine energy in separation, recognizing the nature of something that needs to be apprehended, right? The ability to recognize and apprehend one's own nature is a bit of the resiliency of the feminine that's coming into bear here. Because this is the feminine energy saying, I'm not going to discount, I'm not going to pretend that I don't feel something. I am going to recognize that sometimes the direction of my energetic emotional feelings is not the logical, sane place to be. That's not the place that leads towards a manifestation goal. And so this is the feminine energy that is working through navigating the internal forces within, not just moving towards them because of the feeling, but really doing that work in recognizing and asking oneself. The ability to feel everything, right, needs to be mitigated with the focus to decide which direction one wants to go. And so this is the feminine energy that's almost amplifying that sense and recognizing within the self that the gift to feel everything can sometimes feel like it's paralyzing. It can kind of put you in that moment of like energetic paralysis, if you will. Because that's that moment that sometimes feels like you have to move against your own current, right? But this is also what we talk about when we talk about the active resilience that feminine needs to inhabit, because the ability to feel what you're emotionally feeling, but still then move in the direction you know is right. That is almost like, again, that act of like moving through the current of emotions and not allowing oneself to be swept away by those energies, by those emotions. So we see even now like a lot of this feminine energy working through that in separation. And that's a little bit of that drag that we're seeing here, right? But that resilience of the Capricorn energy is helping like motivate that focus forwards. While for masculine energy in separation right now, this has more to do with the masculine energy moving into that modality of frustration. Because we see even now that for the masculine energy right now that's in separation, a lot of this has to do with some kind of energetic acceptance point. Because I see even now that for a lot of the masculine energy, there's a lot of this work that's occurring. And I just got to say this, I'm seeing this for a lot of the energy in separation. Very hard lessons that were potentially learned in the modality of trying to move towards someone that you weren't either ready for or you weren't ready to reveal your truth to. And so we see even now like navigating that regret space for a lot of the masculine is very difficult, because there's that moment that a lot of these lessons feel like they're very energetically difficult, because it feels to a certain extent like the lesson itself or the lesson one learned of itself came at a large cost. And potentially some of that large cost was like some of that past, like that past circumstance or situation that you may now recognize as an inaccessibility point, but is also helping you build that groundwork in terms of what you need to change within your own self to build a positive connection with feminine going forward. So both of these energies going through that act of like healing, but it's rough work, you know. This is that Capricorn energy is like put a pedal to the metal. It's like doing the work, right? So we see a lot of that energy and separation, ready to do that work within, and the healing factor here is not trying to externalize that, like looking within the self and saying, I can do this inside myself. I'm not going to project it out onto others. While for masculine and feminine energy, right, that is coming into divine union right now, this is a lot of that energetic lesson that's occurring with the point and the possibility of suddenly experiencing and seeing something that you couldn't see before. This is having that breakthrough. At the moment that you have that breakthrough, suddenly you recognize, when you have a breakthrough, suddenly you realize you can see what the barrier was. So for a lot of the energy right now, having knocked that barrier down so early in partnership, building in a strong foundation, is suddenly helping you recognize the barriers that were preventing this from happening in the past. And for the feminine, again, this could be more frustrating. For masculine, it may feel a little bit more sad, because for the feminine, it may feel more like that moment of one's emotions that kept you in a space that felt like that barrier was present. For masculine, it may feel more like not being able to have had that breakthrough or knock those walls down within the self that may have prevented that from occurring sooner. While for masculine and feminine energy, deep within divine union, a lot of this work that we're effectively seeing at this time is reflective of just accepting that, like, when we move forward with the manifestation goal, there's like either that feeling of like harmony, happiness, joy, acceptance, that is almost that moment of someone saying, like, I accept that reality. I appreciate what you're trying to bring forth. I am here to be within that. Versus the energy that may be pushing something away at that time, saying, that's not necessarily something that I desire to have experience. That's not necessarily something that I'm willing to inhabit. And so we see even now, like, there may be this like replacement right now energetically, if you're trying to move forward towards someone with a point of joy, and they're not coming back towards you with that same amplification of joy, that sometimes can feel a little painful and shocking, because even in those moments, it may reorient you in terms of the relationships that you've built with someone, in the context of them not necessarily seeing something that you feel is positive from the same point of view. While for masculine, continuing to get clarification on these cards right now, between our Queen of Cups in its upright and our Page of Pentacles in its upright. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Five of Wands in its reversal. This is why, for the energy right now that's deep within the divine union frequency, this isn't something that broaches an argument. You can imagine and understand that when you experience and encounter something, when you bring something of positivity to someone, because this is energy deep within the divine union frequency that is feeling like, in a way, this is like the emanation of their own happiness. This is the amplification of that manifestation. If this is energy, this is energy that can't imagine the possibility of anyone being able to inhabit a space that they don't receive that in the same frequency, right? So there's that moment that almost, again, the energy within is supporting one another by coming into that point of acceptance, which is having something and holding it with a very loose palm, right? Because that's that moment that we almost say, like, we don't want to define and control how others experience something, but all we can do is try to amplify the nature of what we're trying to offer. And this is the energy that's within the divine union frequency. If they're hitting any of those friction points, they're supporting one another in the process. Feminine giving masculine that emotional support, and potentially even giving masculine articulation on the feminine perspective. If these are places and spaces where masculine is being confused by feminine, other feminine energy reacting in such a way to the expression of that manifestation occurring. This is how the feminine is almost helping the masculine. It's giving the feminine the tangible, the emotional perspective, while as masculine is giving feminine the tangible clarification. This is the masculine recognizing and identifying that, again, these are the energetic forces that choose the counterpart, and then they see that reactivity towards the manifestation goal. And that's that moment that comes into that amplification of acceptance, because this isn't energy that feels like they're going to change that manifestation for the sake of the energy outside of them. That's that moment that, again, that inevitability is almost accepting that whatever occurs in that modality is just what needs to be navigated, right? While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union, this is the energy that is feeling how easy it can be. This is the energy that may be having a profound breakthrough because they gave each other the manifestation goal so early in the partnership that it's like they're like, again, it's the amplification and gift that we keep seeing that we give to one another when we look at someone and say, you make something so easy. That is almost the amplification of someone saying, I love you. Because it's a recognition point and understanding how hard it is to make something easy, right? Because for feminine, that is the feminine having the emotional resilience to be able to have the confidence to tell masculine what they desire to build going forward with masculine. And this is the masculine energy that, again, by telling the feminine what their manifestation goal is, says to the feminine, I prioritize you above that manifestation. That isn't a manifestation I'm trying to build around you. That is a manifestation I'm trying to build with you. So we see even here that these energies feel that tight bond that's forming. And it's not even the fact that they've come into giving each other those commitment points or those commitments, but they have. Because this is the action, this is the act of commitment that supersedes words. While for masculine and feminine separation, this is why the energy within separation is feeling like they're having that breakthrough point right now. Because this is the feminine that's not over-internalizing an external problem if they're not receiving a manifestation goal from masculine. This is feminine energy saying, I'm manifesting masculine energy that is willing to articulate a desire for a manifestation goal. That's a feminine looking and observing the masculine and saying, again, it's either there or it's not. If I only move towards masculine that offers that, things become a lot easier because I'm not trying to pull it out of the masculine. I'm not trying to make something appear where nothing is. I'm just looking and observing as to whether it's there. And that's the feminine that's feeling that breakthrough that's happening within the self. That is feeling like that inevitability, which is like if the feminine says to oneself, if I'm only moving towards masculine that's able to articulate a manifestation goal, how am I going to lose? I'm not going to fall into a point of not receiving that because I'm setting my energetic standard and saying that that's all that I will accept. While for masculine energy right now, in that same modality, this is the modality of masculine saying, if I want to build with feminine instead of around feminine, I need to tell feminine what it is that I want to create. I need to have that confidence within. So we see that these energies right now, look how close they are to potentially coming into partnership now. Again, a lot of energy that is on the cusp of potentially coming into new energetic connections because these energies are both separating away from something that almost was, but the lack of an ability to articulate on a manifestation goal created that blockage point. But this is an energy that's not trying to stick around and manifest something where something isn't supposed to be. This is the energy that's saying, I'm looking elsewhere. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now, between our Page of Pentacles in its upright and our Death card in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Queen of Pentacles in its reversal. Again, a bit of a different experience right now. A little bit more, I gotta say, a little bit more difficult for feminine right now. More difficult for feminine is what we're really seeing. Masculine and feminine in separation right now, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. The feminine energy moving through that moment, this is the feminine energy that is potentially feeling more of that frustration towards masculine if in separation right now. Because again, and I'm even going to see this, some of this energy right now, especially if these are situations and circumstances wherein feminine's trying to move away from an energy that did not provide that manifestation goal. If this is energy that is, I keep seeing this coming through, if this is energy that is only receiving a manifestation goal after a separation has occurred, this is the feminine energy once again articulating towards masculine the difference between a manifestation goal that is given freely versus something that is delivered to try to maintain the status quo. Right? Like that is the difference between something that is energetically offered from a point of, again, trying to be mindful and care for another versus bringing something up at a moment that you see something departing for hope, for the desperate hope of being able to maintain what you already have. Right? So we see even now, like a lot of this energy, if this is feminine dealing with something like this could lead to some volatility. I'm going to tell you right now, this could lead to some volatility because this is almost feminine feeling like the equivalent of an energy that they're trying to articulate and say that the feminine recognizes that a desire to bring forth a manifestation goal should not be an ultimatum. It is just something that needs to be present. It needs to be like easily given because the resistance point indicates a lack of confidence in the masculine in relationality to what they want or their own ability to express it towards the feminine. While for masculine energy and separation right now, this is that same modality, because if this is the masculine that went to all the trouble of being able to articulate their manifestation goal to the feminine, and the feminine's not doing the same in kind, this is the masculine, again, is almost looking at the feminine saying, I feel like that feminine's holding, not in a place where they're ready to move forward. This is a feminine energy that's almost trying to hold on to something. And their inability to let go is what's preventing them from being able to move forward. Because that's almost the masculine looking at it with a state of compassion and saying, I think that that's a feminine energy that's holding on to a manifestation goal. But they recognize that in the moment of moving towards me, they're closing something out with another. So we see even now, like both of these energies, observing that. Masculine, it feels a little bit more compassionate. Feminine, it feels more frustrating, because especially, again, this is more the masculine being more amenable to a feminine coming towards them with that manifestation goal, because this is why we see the masculine being like, when they're ready, it will be the articulation of them indicating it via their ability to articulate what it is they aspire and desire to build with me. While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into the divine union, the same exact reason. Do you see why this could be more volatile for feminine coming into this modality? Because this is that feminine energy that's now, if they're only now receiving this open palm from masculine, it builds that sense of observation in the past of the feminine overly internalizing why they weren't receiving it, instead of being in that binary of looking and saying, is that a masculine willing to give it or not? Which is why it can create a moment of feminine feeling more unstable or frustrated, and remembering that, because that's the feminine that's feeling like they're looking at that past version of self with empathy and the desire to wish that they could impart that knowledge to them sooner. While for masculine energy, coming into divine union, this is almost that amplification of looking towards feminine and feeling that energetic protectiveness. Because if this is masculine that's moved into that sense of understanding the self so much so that you're able to give forth to feminine in this way, like a lot of this is almost, again, navigating those hurdles of experiences wherein feminine was not given that to such an extent. And so we see even now that this, in a way, is the masculine further healing their own feminine self, because this is a masculine that is almost present to be able to experience those situations of the feminine being able to articulate to masculine what occurred. And that's not a masculine getting reactive in that modality. It's reaffirming the masculine energy's own commitment in doing better towards the feminine. And that's all built on, again, that articulation and that amplification of being able to talk about past experiences in a place of compassion and reaffirmation in doing something in a better way going forward. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is deep within the divine union frequency, what we effectively see at this time is this is the energy that's just coming into a point of acceptance, right? This is the energy that's just operating. If these are spaces and places of positivity, this is just accepting whether the energy is receiving it as such. This isn't energy trying to change someone's mind in that modality. It's just using the powers of observation to see how something is received. And that's that moment. It's like that's either the beginning of something beautiful, or potentially the temporary or permanent closure point in some relationships around the divine union, depending on how they're receiving the manifestations of the divine union. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Eight of Cups in its reversal in combination with our Five of Wands in its reversal. Can I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Three of Pentacles in its reversal. This is the beautiful acceptance point that we see that is happening right now for a lot of the energy within the divine union frequency. It's that feeling of starting anew. It's building new ground. This is the energy that feels like they have reached this amazing, like there's been a manifestation goal here that has come into fruition to such an extent that the energy itself is in alignment with it, and they're sharing that with others. They're radiating it forth. So what happens in that modality? It allows for that feeling of new ground. It allows for that ability of having new manifestation goals. So this is energy that is both simultaneously experiencing the delight and excitement of being in that modality, while also recognizing that that point may be perceived by others in different ways. And that's not the energy trying to change the perception of the energy around a circumstance or situation. They're just accepting it as fact. That is also the way that this energy is grounding their manifestation. While for masculine and feminine energy that's coming into divine union, that ability of building forth in such a way that you have that stability, that you know where something is headed, where you're not living in a world of pretense or insecurity. The stability you've provided each other is in the context of being able to amplify what you desire from one another going forward. It frees you up. It frees you up because this is energy that feels like they're going through the motions of things that they've experienced in the past, but in a whole different way. Because it's not building forth in a place of hope and expectation. It's building forth in a space of endless possibility. And even now we see a lot of this energy is healing from the past, just in the process of starting something new energetically in this fashion. While for masculine and feminine energy that is in separation, this is why the energy right now is not sticking around if something isn't present. They're just immediately moving forward from that point. And this is the energy that's saying, like, the ability to recognize and identify what feels like it is not going to create a long-term viable outcome sooner. Being able to almost look at something and immediately know and say, nope, that's not it. That is the gift that the energy feels like they're receiving, because this isn't energy that's like finding something here and going, well, maybe if I keep digging, I'll see something that isn't here. This is the energy that says, I either see it there or it's not. I see evidence of it or it's not there. And this is energy saying, I'm not going to spend all my time trying to dig to find something if it's not present. This is the energy that says it's either there or it's not. And that's the energy that's allowing themselves to move forward into new possibilities. Even when they're not experiencing it, you're not feeling frustration. You're feeling success and saying, I'm recognizing it sooner. That's a good thing. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Five of Wands in its reversal and our Queen of Pentacles in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Star in its reversal. Again, a bit more triggering today for a lot of the feminine energy. I'm going to tell you right now, today is not the day to start getting picky on a feminine today. This is not, bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Today's not the day. Today is not the day. Wrong day. Because what we see right now, this is a lot of the feminine energy across all of the frequencies navigating a lot of wounds. And again, the energy that's doing this properly, they're not projecting that work outwards. But even here, there's a lot of that feminine energy that's working to heal by observing spaces and places wherein they feel like they weren't seen, they weren't appreciated. And that's why we see even now, especially if there's some feminine energy that's caught in that conclave, like that, I want to say that converse feeling of trying to depart from someone that didn't bring forth the manifestation goal. At the same time that they're bringing it forth only after something has ended, while you're trying to move forward into that point of beginning. We see even now this could create some point of conflict for some of the energy and separation, because that's the difference between feminine saying, you're offering me what I desire, versus a feminine energy saying, you're trying to keep me in a place where I'm not getting what I deserve. While for masculine energy and separation right now, we see even now, if these are spaces or places wherein feminine energy isn't building forth to articulate what the man, and this is the same convex situation for some of the masculine in separation, because if this is masculine that's trying to move towards feminine, that has an ability to articulate what their manifestation goal is, it feels more like a realm of temptation for masculine, because it's almost the feminine that's trying to build forth on an emotional or passionate connection that masculine knows is there, and masculine knows is easily accepted, like accessible. But this is the masculine almost trying to push that back to a certain extent, because again, this is masculine that's not trying to build into a space where they're worried or creating a sense of a feminine feeling like they were being taken advantage of in some way. This is the masculine almost saying, like, I want that clarity to be there, because that's the masculine saying, I want the resilience in you being able to articulate to me that you know what you want, instead of just feeling like I'm something that is available to you, or someone that is available to you whenever you feel that need. Right? So we see both of these energies that even in the process of moving forward, they're navigating experiences where it's hard to articulate and amplify to someone why something isn't energetically connecting. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, coming into divine union, we see that a lot of this work right now has to do with the sanctity and the appreciation of the feminine. And we see even now that for a lot of that energy coming into divine union, navigating those spaces and places wherein at the moment that the feminine is treated or receives that gift from the masculine protects the feminine by being able to articulate the manifestation goal. Because in the moment that the masculine articulates the manifestation goal to the masculine effectively says to the feminine, I don't see you as a means to an end. I see you as someone I am building with, not building around. So we see even now that for a lot of the feminine energy receiving that, coming into that understanding, feeling that, it almost harkens back to those places or spaces that the feminine feels like they didn't receive that again can feel very difficult, because that's the feminine recontextualizing experiences and scenarios and never sure exactly as to whether that was done from a place of intentionality, from a masculine that was too afraid to build that sense of safety, or if it was intentional. So you can see why this can be very difficult vibration for feminine to inhabit, especially when they look back on past scenarios. For masculine, this is masculine experiencing that with the feminine and not being able to articulate or identify either as well. So that's that moment of almost having to inhabit all of those possibilities in the experience of the past. Again, that Gemini energy and being able to look at something, being almost able to look at the past through two different optics. Each one, neither one good. But even there, being able to heal something in the ability to observe it. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is deep within the divine union frequency, this is just that observational point of, again, sometimes when we move forward in a state of healing and positivity, there are those who may be hurt by it. There are those who may take it energetically personally. And so we see even now, like being able to navigate through those spaces for a lot of the energy moving into divine union, it feels very difficult. Because even in the observation of someone taking another's joy personally, it almost feels that like that amplification of wanting to help someone or wanting to heal someone, but also recognizing that there's nothing you can do in that modality, that that's something that only can happen from within the self. So we see even now, like that's almost that point that is difficult for a lot of the energy within the divine union frequency, because it's almost like that moment of wanting to like extend your hand to heal something, but knowing that you're not in the space or place equipped to do it. Right? Like it can't, like the energy can't move forward in that way, because if that's the energy that's like, if anytime you try to touch someone or reach out to someone, they take it personally, you suddenly reach that moment, you're like, there's nothing I can do that is positive, because it's the amplification that you're saying that there's nothing I can do that is like it's a paradox, it's an impossibility place. So we see even now, like for a lot of the energy right now in that frequency, hitting some of those margins can feel very frustrating, because it's almost the amplification of seeing some energy and being like, there's nothing I can do. You must do it within the self, right? Final card for today's spread between our Three of Pentacles in its reversal and our star energy in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our King of Wands in its upright. Masculine and feminine energy right now, deep in the divine union frequency. The beauty of this has to do with the ability to communicate forward in such a way. And we see even here a lot of, and this is why this feels a little bit more difficult right now for feminine as opposed to masculine, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. A lot of the feminine energy having more of an ability to emotionally connect and understand the nuance of some of those circumstances and situations. In a way, we see that a lot of the energy within the divine union is almost helping the masculine energy better understand to a certain extent. Because even especially if there's some of that energy that is coming into that point of, coming into that point, there, like it's almost that point that like we almost recognize and identify to a certain extent that a lot of that energy navigating that is almost coming into that point of amplifying the impossibility vector, right? Like that's almost the feminine energy almost amplifying to the masculine the impossibility factor around some of those circumstances or situations, because the feminine has a better understanding of like recognizing that like when someone is overly sensitive, that is the indication that sometimes prevents any kind of communication, right? Because when you are overly sensitive, it literally implies that nothing you can do will not elicit an overly strong reaction, right? So we see even now that if these are energies within the divine union navigating that, being able to recognize that effectively, this is the energy that again is hoping that with time, someone may recognize and see that within their own self. While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union, this is the feeling of the blowback, if you will, of the energy recognizing in the moment that they receive something just how much they have to heal from. And both for masculine and feminine energy, that is having different that's having different impacts. For the feminine, it is seeing or feeling those spaces or places in the past wherein you felt like you weren't valued the way that one would aspire and desire. While for masculine, that's coming into those spaces or places wherein you're doing the best that you can in the moment, but that's almost the amplification of recognizing that you're not energetically perfect, but you're always learning and growing in the process. So we see even now that like a lot of that energy coming into divine union, it feels like you're building something really strong in the moment of being able to be so expressive and authentic and vulnerable to one another in the process, because again, you know what it is you're creating between each other. You don't have to spend all your time, effort, and energy debating as to what that is. It leaves so much room to be able to like see one another on the way. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, in separation, this is why the energy is not sticking around if they're not getting that clarity, because this is a feminine saying, if I want to build, I can only build with someone that can articulate that they want to build with me. And this is the feminine coming into acceptance point in separation, saying some masculine energy doesn't want to build with me. Some masculine energy is just looking for some company. While for masculine energy, and that's the feminine energy, recognizing and identifying and saying, my job is to articulate and recognize the masculine that has done the work on themselves enough that they can amplify what it is that they want to grow with me. And that's how the feminine energy is effectively holding themselves in a higher standard, because that is looking at the past and saying, I'm making choices that value the protectiveness of the self. While for masculine and feminine, masculine energy in separation, this is the masculine that is feeling the same. Like, do you see how close these energies are to potentially coming into connection? This is masculine saying, I can only build with someone that has the same ability to articulate a desire to build with me. Because this is the masculine saying, if I build in a context of a feminine that isn't clear what they want and isn't able to amplify, articulate it, this is again the masculine saying, this isn't a feminine energy that says that they want to grow with me. This is a feminine energy that feels like they might just need some company. And so this is masculine energy. So both of these energies doing that work to try to move closer to what they feel is their counterpart connection by recognizing what isn't for them feels like a step towards what is. Bottom of the deck on this reading right now is our Knight of Pentacles. It's all about that. And here's what's so beautiful about this. Again, the manifestation goals are not a promise of commitment. They're not a promise of commitment. In these modalities right now, there aren't energies here that they're pledging that they're moving in that direction. But again, what occurs in the moment that we articulate to someone what our manifestation goal is? In the moment that we articulate to someone what our manifestation goal is, we relinquish it. We articulate to them and say, the priority is honesty towards you, clarity towards you, as opposed to the desire to reach my goal at all costs. So we see even now, like a lot of that energy, it's having a different it's having a different impact across all the frequencies. For the energy in separation, there's always that I told you, two different modalities. The sense of someone who doesn't have the courage and confidence to articulate it. That is the hardest part for both masculine and feminine, because that's that moment of looking if something isn't present and saying, is it because someone lacks the courage to articulate it? And this is the energy that effectively has been amplifying and saying that is a possibility, but this is the energy that almost says, I can't, the possibility that is occurring, it comes at too great a cost, right? The possibility that the latter is happening, it's too high. It's too high a risk is what this is like a lot of that Capricorn energy coming in. It's too high a risk to assume that that's coming out of fear instead of intentionality. And this is the energy that's almost saying if it's coming out of fear, no one can fix that fear but the person themselves, right? While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union, I told you, sometimes we can only see things in the moment that we have something to compare it to. So a lot of the energy right now is only now receiving something that is tangible enough that they can compare everything that was not that to it to recognize what they need to heal from. While for masculine and feminine energy that is deep within the divine union frequency right now, this is just that point of acceptance that whenever you bring something new into the world, even if it's a partnership, even if it's a dream, that you only can do what one can do in terms of being able to offer it to those around you. How they choose to receive it is entirely their decision. That is our daily collective read for today. I want to thank you guys so much for being here and experiencing it. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a private reading with me, you can book one on my website, graystrega.com. My private readings are done over video, and if you are a subscriber to my TikTok, you can take 10% off any of my services when you pay. Just mention your subscriber name at the point of payment. Please keep in mind, if you book a private reading with me, it is a 2-step process. You have to book the reading, you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you would like to have that reading. Most importantly, please remember that I will never, ever, 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 ever reach out to you for a personal reading. I will never DM you. I will never PM you. I will never slide into your inbox and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my website. So I encourage you to do it there. Also, a couple quick updates for those joining us. Firstly, if you missed our High Priestess class, I'm very happy to let you know that the recording of that full class is now available on my Substack, as well as the course materials, graystrega.substack.com. That class is available to all, and all previous classwork is available to all of my paid subscribers. Our next class will be held on Wednesday, July 17th at 6 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. Eastern, and we will be focusing our studies on the High Priestess card. If you'd like to become a part of those classes, all you need to do is become a paid subscriber to my Substack. Your subscription will grant you access to my classes, as well as the recordings and course materials for all of the previous classes that we've had thus far. And you've got a full month to catch back up. You'll also have access to a one-on-one chat with me and the other students to ask any questions that you may have in relation to anything that we're studying or your own tarot journey. And if you become a founding member to my Substack, not only do you get a discount on the full year's worth of classes, but you will also receive a one-on-one mentorship reading with me where we will assess where you are on your own tarot journey. And I'll give you the best insights in terms of how to utilize the class and your own path work most effectively going forward. I tried to build these classes to be useful to both the absolute novice reader as well as the seasoned reader. There's definitely something there for everyone. So thank you to those who are already participating in those classes, and I hope to see you there. And even if you don't become a paid subscriber to my Substack, I would encourage you to follow me there to be able to stay up to date on any new offerings or events that we may be hosting. Also, we are doing a giveaway right now. If you would like to become a part of that giveaway for a free tarot reading, just head over to my link tree. There's a 2-minute travel survey there. Filling out that survey will grant you an entry into the giveaway. But if you'd like to increase your chances to win, go ahead and forward that link to a friend, because for every person that you forward that link to who enters, you will also receive the possibility of winning, because when I pull the winner, I will be giving away 2 tarot readings to the person who won and also to the person who referred them. So thank you if you've already entered, and I wish you the best of luck. Finally, for my clients, I'm very happy to let you know that I have 2 new offerings I'm including on top of the life path readings that I typically do. First, I'm now doing mentorship classes. They can be purchased on an individual level, or you can buy a month's worth of classes, 4 45-minute classes, 1 per week, around the subject and area of your choosing. I take a very limited number of students for this reason. And also for my clients that are seeking more consistent tarot support, I'm very happy to be offering weekly tarot insight packages. So that's a discounted rate on 4 30-minute tarot readings, so you can stay up to date each week on where you are on your own particular journey. I want to thank you guys so much for being here today and sharing in these messages, and we will do this again